Monica, you are the executive director of the Irving Interfaith Clinic, which I know is not just a job to you, it's a calling.
Yes.
And so I want to talk a little bit about what the clinic is and how it functions in the community. What is the Irving Interfaith Clinic?
We are a community's compassionate response to the healthcare crisis before us. As stethoscopes on the ground, we care for those who no one else will see or care for. Right last year, that was 6,000 patients.
Oh my gosh, that is a huge number.
Yes.
I mean, even when you think about the fact that the city has got about 200,000 people, that's a big percentage.
And it is all uninsured and indentured.
Wow, wow. So it's a big mission.
It is a huge.
And you're fulfilling it with volunteers, which is just, that's astounding. So let's talk a little bit about the structure of the organization. Volunteer doctors, volunteer dentists?
We have volunteer dentists, dental hygienists, physicians, specialists, interpreters. It's based on a structure of giving your talents.
Yeah, so that's something that is ingrained into the fiber of the organization, because it absolutely started that way. I think you shared with me that when Lily Juarez and Dr. Robert Israel got together, that was one of the things they wanted to make sure was an absolute part of it, and that was in 2006?
Yes.
Okay, talk to me a little bit about how the clinic has grown and what kind of services you guys are providing.
Okay, that first year in 2006, Dr. Israel saw 175 patients inside a little office hutch, you know, and on Thursday nights. We now see 6,000 patients. We're open 8 to 5, weekends, nights. Depending on whatever our visiting physicians want to do, we will open up the clinic and staff it for them. But we have a physician clinic, which takes care of primary care needs, a nurse practitioner, always on hand. We have a dental clinic, diabetic education, prescription assistance, which we do an average of about $85,000 a month in free medicines over our counter.
How in the world do you guys do that? That's stunning.
It
That's
is
a huge amount of money.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, when you can turn a gift of $30,000 into $85,000 a year, a gift of $30,000 a year into $85,000 a month in free medicine, and these are medicines that are keeping people employed and working, and their families healthy. It's diabetic, it's insulin, it's inhalers. There's some heart medicine we gave away for a truck driver who couldn't regulate his heartbeat. You know, the prescription's $500 a month. He couldn't afford it. But yet, if he doesn't get his medicine, he's going off the road, he's not working, he's losing his house, he's losing his job. You know, we keep families healthy.
Wow. And that, you're really saying a mouthful there, because I think a lot of times people hear we're giving free to someone. They think that it's someone who's sitting at home and won't do for themselves, but that's not the typical patient that you see.
Oh, no.
Tell me about who you see.
We see entrepreneurs, like my friend Towne. We see day workers who just need assistance, who have been hiding for so long that they have let their diabetes become unmanageable now. So we are able to step in and make sure that we can keep them managed. That takes a very long-term relationship. So we're not a transactional clinic at all. You're not going to come and get a shot in the arm and we're going to say, thanks so much, see you next year, or never. We become a compassionate environment, comprehensive medical home. So that when we have my friend Sloan walk in the door and she goes to our primary care clinic, she's then going to walk over to the diabetes clinic. She's going to learn how to manage her blood sugar levels and to do portion control. Then they're going to send her over to the dental clinic, because diabetics, as you know, have a horrendous periodontal disease. So we have, 35-year-old men coming in who are losing their teeth without a cavity in them because they've never had diabetic education or care or oral care. And then we go up to our pharmacy clinic and we can get them their medicines to make sure they stay regulated and on the clock, and we bring them in every month, and then we have social services if we need that.
Yeah. So when you say comprehensive, you're not just talking about a quick visit to the doctor and a quick visit to the dentist.
No, not at all. It's transformational all the way.
Transformational. There's a word. And that's what happens. You know, if you can help somebody be healthy and you help them keep their job, then they get to keep their house and they get to feed their children.
Right before I came on board, there was 2 men who were our new patients, and they had gone undiagnosed diabetes way too long. Then they both lost their legs. And it's only because our physician and our social worker didn't relent, and they fought it and fought it and fought it. They came back with prosthetics for them, and they got them working again. All right, so can you imagine 2 men whose families now have no income, all of a sudden being able to go back to work, because they're day workers, and work again. What that means for an entire family, and these are our kids that are in our school system, you know. This is their moms and dads. If you want to know how to care for a family, it has to start with mom and dad, because they teach the children how to live healthy, how to be involved in the community, what you can expect, how to be responsible.
And if you can keep those folk intact and moving forward, then you lay the foundation.
For an entire family and their families.
So it begs the question, if there is no interfaith clinic in Irving, where do these people go for care when they get sick?
Most of our patients, I'll probably say 50%, between 30 and 50, would not seek care at all. They would not come out of the woodwork to get help. These are the people who wait until it hurts too bad to get help. Yeah. They would try to get into Parkland. Some of them have had to turn down insurances because the cost of the insurance was more than their rent. You know, if you're choosing between rent and groceries and health insurance, you choose to eat. Is just basic life, you know. Teddy's Stories, Irving Care is what provides for 20,000 people who need resources. Those are our patients. Those are the people who have a temporary gap, or they're between jobs, or their bosses are freaking out about the ACA coming down and they're getting laid off, or they're going reduced to 20 hours. These are the people we see. They are not sitting at home eating bonbons, I promise you. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I think that's the stereotype about people that accept any kind of care. And if you don't mind, I'd kind of like to go a little bit further to debunk that stereotype a bit. And
I would love to debunk that stereotype.
Talk about your own situation. I know that this is a very difficult story to tell because there was so much hardship in your early life and things that you had to get figured out, primarily because you've got 4 kids that you know are looking to you to provide for their livelihood and provide their leadership as well. And you're having to do this, unfortunately, all on your own because of your husband's illness. Can you talk about that?
About 10 years ago, well, it was before that, but by 10 years ago, actually just last month, I declared bankruptcy. I was a single mom of 4. I had been laid off following 9/11. Our entire region shut down, moved everybody out. I was doing temp jobs, and I was uneducated. You know, I had a high school diploma, and I came from a world where you went to high school, you got married, and you had babies. I mean, that was all you needed, was to be a wife and mom. And I was unprepared. And I remember looking at my kids and going,
what am I going to do?
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I can't make the rent.
Yeah.
We're going to lose our home.
And you're not going to get any help from your ex-husband.
Oh, no.
Because he's mentally ill.
He has mental illness, at that time. So,
yeah.
No, there was no child support. There was no assistance. I was too proud to go get financial assistance. I was too proud to go down to Irving Care. I knew they had an educational component they required, and I'm like, I'm not stupid. I'm not ignorant. I just can't feed my kids. Yeah. And when you have 4 of them, that becomes a colossal issue quickly. I remember it got down to a jar of peanut butter in the refrigerator, and bankruptcy, and I still couldn't make the mortgage payments, and I decided that we were going to leave town. I was going to go up to Kansas. My folks were up there. I was going to go live with them, help get support, go back to school. Regroup.
Yeah.
Within 6 months, they had decided they wanted to sell their home and move to Oregon. So we picked up the kids again, and we transplanted again all the way out to the Northwest, and within a year, it was me taking care of my 4 kids and my 2 parents and feeding them and going to school full time, taking 21 credit hours, working 50 hours a week, and it was colossally hard. And so when I say that people who are getting these services at the clinic, or who use Teddy's Stories, or who, they are not slackers, because I was not slacking. Yeah. I just couldn't feed my kids. Yeah. And what are you going to do?
Yeah, you're going to try to figure it out because you're a good mother. You're not going to decide to stay at home and just, you're going to figure it out. Yeah. And you decided to come back to Irving.
I decided to come back to Irving, yes. Christmas Eve of 2004, we packed up the kids and we moved back. And I remember coming into our home. We had bought a home. That's the one I was going to lose. And we had rented it out to North Lake College kids. And I was like, you guys got to get out. Semester break's coming. You leave. We're coming home. Yeah. And we decided to start again, just the 5 of us.
Yeah. at Christmas.
At Christmas.
Which had to be tough for you.
Well, we woke up Christmas morning. I was like, we're home, so Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry
this
Christmas,
is it.
we're back here. Well, you had a home here, of course, and so that's certainly enough reason to come back. But were there other reasons that brought you back to Irving? Anything that made you think, okay, this is a place that I'm going to be able to start over and I'm going to be successful here?
If there was not consciously before, there was immediately afterwards. I started reaching out. I was going to Northlake College at the time, and I had a professor called Dr. Bach, and he is notorious for pushing his students into public engagement. You get out there volunteering for PTA, you go to city council, you do this, and he was the first man who ever told me, you have a voice and people need to hear it. Which probably a lot of people have regretted since then. But I believed him, and so I went and called up Chris Wallace, and I went and called up Mara Gass, not thinking they would blow me off, and they both sat down with this single mom who was on food stamps, going to Northlake College. I felt, the biggest failure of my life, of what I felt like. And they sat and they invested in me, and they showed me what community leaders look like, what it means to put a city before yourself, and then they created a welcoming environment where I could go and participate and bring my kids so that they could groom them and raise up to know that. Joe Martinez, these are people who had no reason whatsoever to invest in me. And they don't just do it for me. They do it all the time. They still do it today. These are our civic leaders that teach you how to build a city.
One of the things that you said to me before that I thought was, it is probably Irving's greatest strength is that our leadership is accessible.
Yes,
and
that was the number one thing that endured Irving to me, is at that point in our city's history, you could go to City Hall or you went to a community event and there was always council present. Jimmy Dickens and Alan Meager, all those old former council members.
That you met.
Yes.
Yeah, at the time, and you could just walk right up to them.
Yeah. That blew my mind. At that time you had, chaos going on in Dallas County, chaos going on.
Yeah. So it was a nurturing environment, not just a place to come back to, but a nurturing environment.
It was home.
And you have built and built and built and built, and your kids have thrived. Can you talk a little bit about them? Because I'm a mom. And I've only got 2. You've got 4.
How much time you got? Because we're talking about my kids. I am proud of these kids.
Yeah, and you should be.
They are world changers. You may not know it yet, but they will. You don't come from a background like they came from, with mental illness and poverty. And I think by the time Stephen was a freshman at MacArthur High School, we had counted 13, 15 moves. You don't move that much.
Wow.
And get where they got. Stephen went to the Naval Academy. He's now a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, on deployment. You got Andrew, who's chose to go to UDA so he could stay close to his sisters and care for them. And now he's going to DTS, Dallas Theological Seminary, and wants to be a lawyer, and he wants to, fight for justice and vindicate the poor and take care of the widows, Rachel, she just sees beauty in everything. You don't get that. And Sarah, she's the baby, and everyone's always told her, you would do far more than any of them, and they were all unfreakingly smart. They did not get that from me at all. They were all, always the Magna Summa, whatever that is, the top ones. They worked hard to be where they are, and they did it with zero resources. Yeah. And it wasn't until, I think, last year, Stephen came home, and he's passing through town on his way to California where he's getting stationed. And he's like, Mom, I never knew we were poor. I never knew we were poor.
Now
I was like, how could you not know we were poor? There was a time we had a neighbor come by going, your grass is really brown. You probably should water that. It's good for your foundation and whatnot. And I was like, I don't have the $10 to buy a hose. I don't have $10 to put gas in my car. What do you want me to do?
Yeah. I promised you that I wasn't going to cry, and here I am, full of tears. But it's such an incredible story. I can't forget Sarah, though. Oh, you got to talk about Sarah. Absolutely.
She'll be.
So Sarah's your baby.
So she is the baby, and she will by far surpass the other 3, I think, just because they invested in her. you know, she had that benefit, just like I had with a Chris Wallace and a Mara Gass and all the people who invested in me. She had that in her 3 siblings.
Isn't that an incredible thing to be able to give as a legacy to your children? Yeah. It helps to have a parent who won't give up. And I think that when, and I think that's the thing that people know about you, Monica, is that you have got a backbone of steel. And that you want to bring that kind of energy and focus, the same kind of energy and focus that you gave to raising your kids, to helping this organization that's going to mean so much to this community. Already does, but moving forward will truly, over this next 5 to 10 years, mean even more, I think is a real benefit to the community. And that is something that, as you say, you learned from people saying to you, use your voice, use your voice. I want to talk a little bit more about your mentors, because they made a difference for you. You mentioned Chris Wallace, you mentioned Mara Gass, and you mentioned Dr. Bach. I can remember you sending me an email and saying, here's what I want to know more about. And I thought, wow, who is this lady? And I had not even seen your face, but the energy came through the email. What was it about what Dr. Bach said to you that made you just get up and go for it?
Oh gosh, I don't know if I can answer that question. It wasn't one word. I think that is one thing that is misleading to our children, to think there's going to be one person who says one thing that they latch on to. And sometimes it is. For some people, it is one little message they heard, and somehow it transformed their lives. I tend to more believe that water over rock, water wins every time. And it takes a consistent, persevering, and endurance to see God move in people's lives and Him use them to change you.
Well, you lived that. You have absolutely lived that. That's been your walking around testimony, you know what I mean? And yeah, water does sort of always wear that rock
always
down.
wins. Always
you're
wins.
Right. Let's talk some more about the Interfaith Clinic, because with the kind of passion that you're bringing to this organization, you know, I can certainly feel wonderful things about it, but it is that day-to-day dealing with the situations that come up, making sure that you have your resources in place, and that's going to always be the toughest thing for any nonprofit organization, because finding those resources, which some folks think are dwindling, gets to be harder and harder. Tell me where you are right now.
My perception is those resources never dwindle. This is a faith-based organization. God's going to do it one way or another, with us or without us. I'd much rather be the part of it that's with them. We had a lady stop in last week, and she was so excited because she finally had insurance, and she wanted to know if she could still see our doctors. And we're like, no, you know, we're for the uninsured, honey. We're so. And she's like, you know what? I'm so hippy, skippy, happy then to be able to say I can't come back here. And it reminded me of when I finally made $10 more than the food stamp allowance. And I remember not even waiting for renewal. I went down to the clinic and said, take me off your freaking rolls. I can finally take care of my own. Yeah. And those are the people we serve. And God honors that. He does not pour His people and resources down the drain ever. And sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it takes years. It took 10 years for me to get here to where my children are stable and they feel safe, and I feel like I have the tools and resources where I can give back, and it will be hell damned before I stop giving back again.
Yeah, yeah. It makes a difference when you've got somebody in leadership who works just as hard, if not harder, than the people that come through the doors to volunteer, because you've got to make the set point. This is the set point. This is the point at which we will not operate any lower. This is the energy that's needed, etc. And you've got that in so many people that are coming through your doors.
And we have it in our staff. Our staff are phenomenal individuals. They can look across the counter and they see their mom and their dad and their brother and their sister, and having that level of compassion and empathy allows us to do much more than these people could ever get walking through a county door where they're just shuffled around like a number.
Yeah, and I think that I like the way you described it, a compassionate, comprehensive
Medical
care
home.
medical home for all of these people. And I think that may in fact be the key. So the lady that came in to see you and said, I'm no longer coming here because I can do this on my own now. Do you think that she's going to be a volunteer? Is that the impression that you got when she came in?
Yes, yes. These are people who, even if she doesn't volunteer for us, she will continue to serve. That is one thing that always resoundingly comes across, and I think in any success stories. Once you have been poured into, you have to pour back. Yeah. You have to. It compulsions.
When Dr. Israel and Lily Juarez kind of got together and started the baseline for the clinic, he was, and he said to me in an interview that he felt like this is the place that I need to make a difference. Tell me about the medical professionals that you have working with you now. Where are they coming from? How do they volunteer their time? How do they get involved?
These are men who would go, or women, who were making the trips to Haiti. You know, they're paying for a $2,000 airline ticket to go to Haiti for a week to inoculate in some camp and come back. And it's not that we don't want to care for Haiti. We have to. But you can come to 2 blocks down the road. We are right here in Irving where the mission field is here and now. We have 70-some languages that are spoken inside our clinic.
Wow.
I mean, we have every nation probably represented, from Africa to South America to Europe to Russia to the, you know, I mean, you name it. Probably no Canadians. I haven't seen any Canadians. I'm sorry about that, guys. But, you know, it is here. And so I'm having the hardest time, and being there only 60 days so far, getting through my head of why these physicians would go to another country when we are right here. And if they would just take one patient, if they would just see my cardiology patients or ophthalmologists, I mean, and the ones that do, they are hooked. We never lose a visiting physician. I mean, they come after hours. They do 4 hours until, you know, we staff it until they go. They're tired and they go home. You know, we open up clinic on Saturdays, and it is the patients, and they pick up on that. And I think last time Dr. Israel was in, it was about 2 weeks ago, and this man walks out and he's in tears, and we're like, "Can we help you? What's wrong? Are you in pain?" He's like, "That is the finest doctor I've ever seen in my life." He's like 60, 63.
Wow.
These doctors have a direct impact on these individual lives, and they will be the Margas and the Chris Wallaces and the Dr. Box for them.
And that's necessary. That's critical if you're going to make a community expand rather than contract.
Yes.
And then we want to be in expansion mode.
Yes, always.
So if
always growing, always doing good.
In the community want to help you with that mission, what can they do?
Number one thing, get your doctor in. Next time you go to the doctor's office, you say, "Are you volunteering at the Irving Interfaith Clinic?" They need help and they need it now.
Yeah.
You get your doctor in here. If you can't get your doctor, get your dentist. We have our dental clinic is 100% staffed and operated by volunteers. If they don't volunteer, we close down clinic. We need equipment. If you are a retiring physician or dentist, we are in desperate need of some equipment so we can service. We have a beautiful facility that's provided to us by the Irving Hospital Authority, rent-free. God bless the Irving Hospital Authority. So we have the capacity to run full out all the time. We don't have the volunteers to do it. We have the population base. You know, our waiting list, it's not near as long as Parkland COPC, but it is extensive, and it is chronic need diseases that need it. These are patients we can't see once and flu shot and be done. They have to be able to come back, and we have to have the capacity to do that. Those are the top 3 things. If you are bilingual, call me up. We need interpreters left and right. Most of our visiting physicians are not bilingual. Most of our patients are in need of that service.
So you need somebody who can just say, "This is where it hurts, doctor, and here's what I think it is."
Yes, please translate for us. Or we have a program called Gideon's 300, and it is for I don't know if you know the story about Gideon's in the Bible. In Judges 7, Gideon had an army of 32,000 to go face this formidable enemy. And I'm telling you, healthcare in America today is a formidable enemy. And whatever happens on the national scale or is going to come down the line, I don't know. I know right here today we have people in critical need, and we are not responding as we need to. So we have Gideon's 300. And if you remember the story, getting sit down with his men, and God was like, you know what, I want to make sure you understand that you're not that great as me, and so you send anybody who's chicken or doesn't want to play this game or doesn't want to be involved home. And they sent 22,000 men home.
Ouch.
22,000 men just bailed on them and left. So there's 10,000 left. And they're like, you know what, it's still too many. We need the faithful. We need the ones who are looking around, aware of what's going on in our city, in our community, and want to be engaged on a long-term basis. And 97 other men left. And there was 300 left. And with 300 men and pitchers and lanterns, they won the battle in one night. Now, I will take 300 Gideon men over 32,000 in Irving any day.
Yeah.
And then we'll see really what God's going to do in Irving.
Yeah. So you've got everything in place. You've got volunteers. You need equipment. You need more volunteers.
We need more volunteers.
And like any other nonprofit, you also need money. And we've talked about this. There are lots of people in this town who can give a lot of money, but there are a lot more people in this town who can give a little money.
10, the 20, the 25.
Yeah. How important are they to your mission?
They are the mission. If we do not, as a city, begin to move past this small base of big, big givers, we are dooming in our entire culture and the next generation. We have to learn to teach people to give and do good across all people's groups, all demographics, all races, all religions, all everything. We have to do that as a city. We have to do that as a nation. We are losing our kids because we're teaching them community service, but we're not teaching them to give. And there is something that happens when you give of your own personal resources for no reason but to do that transforms something in you. And people need that. We need that. So I would take $20 and get that grassroots effort. I mean, look at what our firefighters do with MDA. They're not going up and hitting corporations for dollars, and I love corporate dollars. Yeah. I think that's important, but they're getting the guy with the pennies in his, and they raise, what, $100,000 every year from pennies.
Yeah, so it can be done.
It can be done.
It's that little bit at a time.
And then you're talking about a major shift in thinking, a major shift that helps all nonprofits, all people. And it's not just Irving Interfaith Clinic fundraising then. It's a culture change. Yeah. It's transformational. That's what we're after.
Yeah. So as we close, Monica, I have to ask you, because the passion that you feel for this organization and for the mission of this organization is so obvious, as is your love for it. Tell me in closing what your hopes are for the organization over the next 3 to 5 years.
I would like to see, within 3 years, us hit in double capacity. We have the means to do it. We are not leveraging them correctly yet. We could easily do 12,000 people, easily, if we just got that volunteering physician component up and operating more. Mm-hmm. We could do some serious long-term diabetic education where we are teaching families how to be healthy. They just don't know. They just don't know, and until someone teaches them, how will they know? Yeah. I would like to get a pharmacy license. I would like to get an in-house pharmacy. You know, there are some, for all of the pharmacy greats we do, there are, requirements they require. And if you are my patient and we have a pharmacy prescription for you to come up and pick up, and then because you are indigent, you transplant someplace else, I have to throw away your medicine. I can't use it. And there is somebody else standing right in front of me who needs that. We have to get a pharmacy license so a pharmacist can legally move that medicine, because right now we have to trash it.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. And just to finish up, your greatest hope as you move forward in this position?
My greatest hope would be for the City of Irving. We need a unifying force in this city, and we need it now. Whatever was needs to be put to bed, because if you don't think it doesn't affect every organization here and our school kids, when you can't get a school council board, if you can't get a city council functioning properly as your leaders, it flows downhill. It always does. Leadership flows down to the bottom. And I see the bottom on a daily basis. And I'm telling you, somebody needs to be getting some unified force and act, because our people are hurting. And I can't do this by myself.